So this is the Pulsar X2H ES, and this is the mouse I've been using the most in the last month or so. Even with other mice on my desk, this is the mouse I just kept going back to, and that's mostly just because of the shape. In terms of specs, the ES version of the X2H is pretty much going to be the same as the regular version. The things that are shared between the two are going to be the sensor, which is the Pulsar 3395, and the MCU is still the Nordic 52840. Clicks in this mouse are still the Pulsar opticals, and the scroll wheel is still the Pulsar blue encoder. The things that are new with the ES version are going to be the alloy scroll wheel, the OLED screen on the bottom, and it's also going to be heavier. The weight of the X2H ES is around 65 grams, while the regular X2H is around 54 grams, which to me is a huge jump. The normal X2H with the 4K dongle is $10 less than the ES, so for $10 more, you are getting a heavier mouse, but you are also getting the alloy scroll wheel and the OLED screen. The quality on the X2H ES is pretty much perfect. The quality of the shell of the mouse is built like an absolute tank. No flexing or creaking is present anywhere on this mouse, no matter how much I try to push on the sides of the mouse. New on the ES mice is the introduction of the alloy scroll wheel, which I am not completely sold on. While yes, it does save some weight and makes the mouse feel a bit more premium, I still rather just prefer a traditional rubber scroll wheel, just because it offers way more grip than the alloy, which I just found to be slippery and awkward to use. The actual feel of the scroll wheel felt pretty decent. Really like the scroll. The steps are not the most defined, but they just get the job done, and the scroll click is decently light as well. Clicks on this mouse are pretty good as well, also feel very high quality with pretty much no post or pre-travel at all. No grinding or wobble is present at all, and I didn't have any of those weird click issues that we saw on the earlier batches of the new Pulsar mice. I did find these switches rather heavy when compared to other mice with opticals, like the new Razer Viper V3 Pro, or the Santelli mouse with the Omron opticals. The side buttons on this mouse are also really good quality, little bit of post and pre-travel, and are decently light and easy to spam. The position of the side buttons are also really good as well, and I had no issues reaching and pressing them. The X2H ES shares the exact same coating we saw Pulsar introduce on the updated versions of the X2s. The coating is super grippy but does collect dirt and grime very easily, and this is a mouse that I would strongly recommend to wipe down daily, as the coating feels and gets very gross feeling after a pretty short period. Right out of the box, the mouse comes included with the dongle that allows you to go up to 4000 Hz, which is a nice touch to see, as most mice these days require a separate purchase of the dongle to reach those higher polling rates. The mouse can go up to 4000 Hz wireless and then up to 8000 Hz when wired. The introduction of 8K wired on the ES mice just seems pretty useless to me, as I really don't see the reason for a wireless mouse needing to be plugged in to access those certain features. At that point, an actual wired mouse capable of those higher polling rates is a better buy, like the OP1 8K from Endgame Gear for example. Performance wise, it's going to perform the exact same as the regular X2H with the additional 4K dongle. Feels extremely snappy and smooth in game, and in terms of performance, I have never ran into any weird issues with any of my Pulsar mice. The one thing I didn't really enjoy is the fact that this mouse is completely driverless, so there is no software available for this mouse at all. The only way you can see the settings you are running is to turn over the mouse and look at the OLED screen at the bottom of this mouse. At a glance, it shows you things like the battery life, DPI, liftoff distance, polling rate, and if motion sync is on or off. There are two buttons on the bottom of the mouse, one to change the DPI and another to change the polling rate, and that's it. To change anything else, you need to input a series of button combinations to change the other setting, and that is my biggest issue. I would honestly much rather a software solution for this mouse than having to reference a user manual each time I just want to change a basic setting of the mouse. So the X2H ES is probably the most perfected version of a claw grip focused mouse that I have ever tried. The X2H is quite similar to the regular medium X2, but with some changes that cater towards claw grip. So the sides of the mouse are going to be way more tapered, allowing you to pull the mouse back into your palm, and just overall the curved sides just make the mouse way more comfortable. And then the most important change is the hump of this mouse that sits perfectly in the palm of your hand. Just overall, if you use an aggressive claw grip, I don't see why you wouldn't like this mouse. All the changes Pulsar have made to the X2H over the X2 just make this mouse way more comfortable for claw grip enjoyers. Fingertip is doable with this mouse, but at that point I would just look at the regular X2, as that is a way better fit. Overall, the base of this mouse is pretty much perfect. The whole ES or esports thing is just a bit confusing for me personally. While I do think it is a great thing to have a pro model available, I just don't think the current features that the ES model is offering us currently is worth the extra cost. If I were Pulsar and designing a version 2 of this mouse, I would add software support to this mouse while still keeping support to use the mouse driverless for people that don't want to bother with any software. I would leave the OLED screen but move it onto the dongle, similar to what brands like Dharma Shark and Vance are doing with their mice. That would also lower the weight of this mouse, and to take it one step further, you can add the cutouts from the regular Pulsar mice to bring down the weight of this mouse even lower. And then finally, since these are being marketed as Pro mice, just add the option to go up to 8000 Hz in terms of the pulling rate. I feel like with all those additions and changes, it'd make for a mouse that is more fitting of that esports name.